Hey, coach, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yep. What's up? Yep, we're going live. 1 minute. It's the longest countdown I've ever experienced in my life. I'm like, oh my god.
I
Oh,
know,
shit.
bro. This thing's huge.
There we go. All right, 1 minute.
Coach, are we all going to be on here? Or is this going to be you on by yourself on this one?
It's just me. Yeah, it's a webinar. Yeah, it's like a
Okay,
webinar.
cool.
Yeah.
All right, man.
Yep.
Well,
Yep.
congratulations, bro. I just wanted to come in and say congrats. I'm
Love you.
excited for you.
Thank you.
Love you,
Thank
bro.
you. Love you.
We'll be watching in the background.
Wow, who is calling me? Why is Kyle calling me? What is going on here? Warriors, rise. Grand rising. Good evening, Warriors. Excited to be with you guys on this very, very, very special day. I have some good news and I have some bad news. I'll start with the bad news. But first, I want to welcome you to the launch of my new book, The American Nightmare: How Inflation, Debt, and Banks Stole the American Dream. This is my life's work, 18 years of information distilled into one book. Now, I'm going to share with you why we're here today, and I'm going to be brutally transparent and honest with you. My goal is to get this book to the #1 spot. Now, why would I be asking for your support with this? This is a historical moment, and I promise you, this moment will go down in history. This book is not only going to change the subconscious programming of Americans, but people worldwide. How it happened, what happened, and how to climb out of this economic system. Now, I shared with you there's some good news and there's some bad news. The bad news is, in order to get your book online, you have to get a proof copy, as you can see right here. The good news is, or the bad news is, we already hit the #1 spot in a category. So we already hit the #1 spot in economic conditions and the #3 spot in economic policy. Now, here's the good news. Guess what we can do now? Is we as a group can take this book to the #1 spot in Amazon out of 85,000 books. We were grateful to hit the #1 spot in one category, but now as a group, we can take this book to the #1 spot in Amazon. Now, why do we want to do that? This book, I promise you, with all of my heart, will absolutely change your life. And now, why are we here today? I'm super thankful for you joining me for this moment. What we're going to do is I'm going to take you all the way back to 2007. I'm going to share with you what happened, where we're at, and where we're going. But I'm also going to give you an hour-long training. And I'm going to take you free training where I'm going to take you deep into the economic system, how it works, how inflation is silently stealing your purchasing power, and how the elites move money through the system. And if you stay till the end, just by purchasing the book, I'm going to give you a ton of free value. So let's stop for just a moment. Let's pause. So in a moment, I'm going to share with you how to get the book. Don't worry, because there's a lot of activators out there that want to get started. But I want to take you all the way back to 2007. 2007, I was coming out of a pretty rough time in my life, and I am getting a job as a banker. Now, I had no idea that God was guiding me to where I'd be today, almost 19 years later. I walked into a bank. I interviewed for a position. I needed a job at that point, and I had no idea I'd be directed to this moment in time in my life. I interviewed with a lady named Lori Schmidt. I always honor her and I thank her for the rest of my life. I had no banking skills. I sat down with her and I did the interview, and I actually had bought my suit at Goodwill for 50 cents. I was I had lost everything. I was starting over at that point in my life. And I remember sitting across from Lori Schmidt, and I practiced and I did everything I could and I left, and she called me 15 minutes later and she said, "We're going to give you the job." And I said, "Thank you." And she said, "We liked your energy." And I thought it was really interesting. I was like, "Man, I'm don't even know anything about banking." She said, "We're going to put you through banking school." So I went through banking school. So imagine this, I'm a brand new banker. I'm sitting at this desk. I'd never done anything in banking, and I'm now a banker. So I went through banker training, but I started to experience something that I've never seen before that got ingrained into my soul and my subconscious mind. Is I got to witness. I didn't understand macro and microeconomics at that point in my life. I got to witness the collapse of 2006 to 2008. I literally saw grown men and grown women walking in to our bank branch and turning in their keys. I saw people across from me looking them in the eyes with tears in their eyes, where our US government, our unregulated banking system or lack of bank regulated system destroyed their financial dreams. Parents, grandparents had worked 30 to 40 years of their life to have everything ripped away from them because irresponsible policies, irresponsible regulation. Now, at that point, I didn't understand what was happening. I pictured from a visual perspective, from my perspective, just irresponsible people. But I didn't realize at that point that that was going to be the first catalyst in what I'm teaching today. The second catalyst is here I am a banker. I went to school, I got a job, got the 401k, and I was indoctrinated into this American monetary system that teach us to be monetary debt slaves. So here I am, a banker making $33,000 to $35,000 a year, 1997 Honda Civic paid off, living in an apartment, living the dream, right? Tons of cash flow. As I started to move up the ranks, my lifestyle creeped. Next thing you know, I'm a VP, 12 or almost going in 10 years later. I'm a VP right at a bank. I don't make any more money. I have 2 cars. I have a big home near a golf course, living the American dream. Actually, was the American trap. And I actually witnessed within the banking system a lot of unethical things that were happening. We weren't financially educating people. We were burying people in debt. We were teaching them to monetize against their future selves. And so I decided to leave the banking system in August 2017. Now, I had a completely different plan. I didn't know I'd be doing what I'm doing today. I walked out of banking in 2017 to become the warrior, right? To teach people mindset, subconscious mind programming, goal setting. I had no idea that I'd be back in the financial system. So when I left, this is what happened. I did everything. Now, when I left, I had a nice stacked up 401k, I had a ton of money in my savings account. So I had a nice runway ahead of me, right? I launched my business the first time in 2018, collapsed. Second time, 2018, collapsed. Launched it the third time, it collapsed. The fourth time, it collapsed. Number 5, it collapsed once again. Think about that. I leave corporate America, hired all these gurus. I did everything I was supposed to do. 5 times it collapsed. But in 2019, I finally hit the gold mine. Did everything I was supposed to do. Okay. Business takes off. The business is right next door. We still own the company. Okay. We now own 7 companies, and one of the companies is next door is our first business that took off. Right. The American dream. All of a sudden, well, they call it the American dream, which I'll teach you, working 19 hours a day. And then I started to get into cryptocurrency, XRP, right? The savior's coming to save me. I'm going to be a billionaire in XRP. I'm inside my company, not scaled. That's supposed to be the American dream. Working 19 hours a day, trying to wait for that one investment, right? When I was in banking, went to school, got a job, 401k, vertical strategy. Okay. Now here I am running a business inside the business and crypto. That's my savior. And what happened is we all went through this together. This is where it gets really emotional and serious. Is all of a sudden the pandemic hit. Remember Rosa Rios said you need a shock to the system to change consumer behaviors. Boom, the pandemic hits. 3 months later, that American dream, that business I created got taken away. They locked the doors for the pandemic. We went from having it all to losing it all again for the 3rd time in my life. And so I had to ask myself a question in that moment. What is the pattern that keeps showing up and why? Why? Every single cycle, the same people get hurt every single time, but there's a group of people that end up winning every single time. We're going to talk about that group today. Okay. So, what I did was, and I've told this story very openly on my social, and I've been very open about it. I actually packed everything up and I moved back in with my parents at 43 years old. Probably one of the most humiliating, humbling experiences that I've ever had. But there was one promise I gave to my parents. I said, give me 1 year to figure this out. And that's what I did. We packed up in their house, 1,000 square foot home, me and my kids, and I gave them 1 year. And what I did is I drew a line in the sand. I became more committed to the pain of change and staying the same. And I did everything I could to rewire my brain. Every moment outside of my children, I devoted my life to financial literacy, financial education, and understanding how the system actually works. And I started to see patterns, not only historical patterns over the last 500 years, but patterns in markets, patterns in the cosmos, patterns in me. And I realized that there has to be the one generational shifter. Every wealthy family has the one. And what I did is at a very small level, I started building patterns. So the pandemic comes back, we all come back to work, and all of a sudden, cryptocurrency skyrockets. And I'm like, man, first of all, it's completely unnatural how fast it was going up. Second of all, I had developed patterns. Third of all, I realized that the elites actually moved through the system very different than everybody else. So what I did is I opened up my first cash value life insurance policy. Okay. Very clunky at first, but I built a system. So I exited the markets as everybody's tried to get rich quick, and I started to build cash flow. And so I invented what's called Capel DR, which you're going to learn about in the book. Now, here's the thing. We're going to get into the training in just a moment. I went from losing everything at 43 years old. I held on to my crypto diamond hands. I didn't touch it. To now today, 2026, 6 years later, to a multi-millionaire investor, a multi-millionaire entrepreneur, 7 companies now, 32 team members in multiple countries. I don't say that to brag. Some of you may get pissed off about that. It may irritate you, and a few of you will motivate you. But the reason why I tell you that, because that's what's possible through discipline, consistency, and action. There is no get rich quick, but there's getting wealthy for sure by understanding how money works, how the 1% stay the 1%, and how economic cycles work. And that's what this book is all about. So as we sit today, that's where we were, this is where we are, and this is where we're going. I will promise you, and I told my 32 team members this, we know this, together, we are going to build $1 billion ecosystem. I'm putting us on a recorded video on April 24th, 2026. We will be $1 billion ecosystem. Why do I say that openly? Because I said the same videos, my first video, my daughter's over there, she does our recording. She found a video. It was one of my first recorded videos as I became a social media guy. It all came true. I want to encourage you to start to speak boldly. Number one. After that, take massive, massive action. And after that, you got to be disciplined and consistent for a long enough period of time to access that paradigm. So I believed that this book was going to be a bestseller. Was I nervous coming up this? This is probably the most nervous I've ever been in my life. I'm just being open and transparent with you guys. Why? Because this is my life's work here, and it's just getting started. This is book number 1. As soon as we lock down this book launch, I'm starting the audiobook, and then I'm starting the next book. And I'm going to devote my life, and our team is going to devote our life to financial literacy. So welcome to the book launch of The American Nightmare, How Inflation, Debt, and the Banks Hijack the American Dream. So as I promised, I'm going to give you a ton of free value today just for being here. There's no obligation. You don't have to buy the book. For those of you, let's dive into this presentation here. For those of you who are, obviously a lot of you are at work. A lot of you guys are go-getters out there and you want to buy the book. I'll show you in just a moment how you can actually purchase a book, but you're going to want to stay till the end because you're going to see how much free value is there. So welcome to the American Dream. Okay, the American Dream is dead. Here's what comes next, change everything. So what I shared with you guys is make sure you stay till the end. Okay, we're working to get this. Like I said, the bad news is we're already number 1 in one category, about to hit number 1 in another category. The good news is let's go for it. Let's take it to number 1 on Amazon out of 85,000 books. So yesterday we were 85. And now we're at 42,000. So we can take it. I was grateful to be number one in one category, right? But let's take it to number one and we get to do this. And now, again, I want to say this, why this is so important, because when you read this book, you'll see what I'm talking about. This is going to put you in the elite category in mindset. Okay. It's going to teach you pre 1907 how the monetary system worked. 1913, what happened? That was a critical moment in 1913 where they changed our whole financial system. Okay. We went from tariffing other countries, okay, to having our own form of currency, like our own value in currency, to a centralized system, and they started to tax us. And our dollars collapsed 96 to 97%. This is not our grandparents' and parents' economy. This will teach you how it happened, what happened, and how to climb out of it, okay? So make sure you wait till the end. I'm gonna share with you all the amazing bonuses, okay? So today's topics, why traditional financial system is no longer enough, how inflation is silently stealing the American dream, the role debt plays in America, how the financial system serves the 1%, but you're the new 1%. My goal is to take the 1% to the 5% before I leave this earth. How you can break free, that's the most important part, and an offer of a lifetime. So it's only going to be available during this call. So make sure if you have to jump off, come back to the recording, which you're going to get. I'm going to show you in just a moment. Okay, here we go. I'm going to share with you right here. Okay, so first thing you need to do is, because I know a lot of you are at work or you need to jump off, we're going to send you the recording on the back end, but here's what you need to do. Okay, in the description of this video, you're going to see first the link to buy the book. Okay. The second link, you're going to need to download both links right now, get them on your web browser. The second one is you want your receipt from Amazon, because you're going to take the second link and you're going to submit proof that you purchased a book, and that's going to unlock all the free bonuses. And you're going to want to stay till the end because it's a ton of free value for just purchasing the book. All right, so let's dive right in. What if everything you were taught about money was a lie? Let me repeat that. What if everything you were taught about money was a lie? Here's the reality. You didn't fail. The system actually did. Okay. You did what they told you to do. Work hard, save money, stay out of debt. And somehow you're still behind. Think about that. Work hard, save money, stay out of debt. So again, you didn't fail. The system actually failed you. Here's the trap. The system was never, ever, ever designed for you to win. I want you to do some research. Research who created the public schooling system. And I'm not talking about the Rockefellers, the people who rewired it into the system that we're in now, but I'm talking about public education. The gentleman who created public education, his stepchildren were homeschooled. The 1% do not send their children to the same systems, guys. Okay, very important to understand. The system was never designed for you to win. Money is created through debt. Most people don't understand that. Inflation erodes your savings, and assets rise faster than wages. You're playing a game without knowing the rules. So if you don't understand that money is actually debt, that inflation every single year erodes your savings, and assets rise faster than wages, you're going to be in the trap year after year. Now, let me give you a specific example of this. My parents bought their house in 1973 for $25,000. Their house today is now worth $400,000. Now, the indoctrination would tell you that's growth. No, it's not. That is devaluation of your currency. Because if they sold their home, they can move next door. There's no advancement. It's the same brick and mortar, the same land. And because of inflation and the erosion of their purchasing power, they can't advance. Now, if that income or that mortgage was put into an asset that beat inflation, like the elites do, they would have multi-million dollars. So you're playing the game, you just don't know the rules, and that's what I'm going to teach you today. So why do people stay stuck? Most people focus on income, budgeting, and saving, okay? But wealth is not built there, okay? Focusing on income isn't going to get you there, okay? Budgeting your way. So we always say this, my CFO always says this, we can't save our way to wealth. We can't save our wealth to growth in the company. You need to create income, cash flow, and grow the company, right? Well, think about this. When you put your money in a savings account, guys, they lend out 100% of it. There's zero fractional reserves anymore. After 2020, the pandemic, there's zero fractional reserves now in transitory accounts, which are checking accounts. They can lend out 100% of your money. So here's the truth around wealth. Income pays your bills, wealth changes your life. Let me say that again. We need income because it pays the bills. We call them debts non-negotiable, but wealth will actually change your life. If you don't own assets, you will always fall behind. Let me say that again. If you don't own assets, you will always fall behind. Okay. This is a system that they don't explain to you. Here's how the game actually really works. Okay. Cheap money goes to institutions. Okay. The Federal Reserve can just print. So money starts at the top. They call it a conspiracy theory, but it's not. Cancer loan effect. Money starts cheap at the top. By the time it gets to us, it's super expensive. So what happens is cheap money at low interest goes into institutions. Institutions buy assets. Assets increase over value. Then they repeat the cycle. Okay. That's how wealth is actually created. So you need to start thinking like an institution. Okay. You got to get out of the worker mindset. Here's the shift. You must stop thinking like a worker and a saver, and you have to start thinking like an owner and a system builder. Okay. So there's nothing wrong with trading time for money. It's what we do with the money that we get in time that is actually debt. Okay. So if we get paid in debt, we put our debt into the bank and they monetize that debt. Okay. Think about that. You are saving so the banks can get richer. Okay. So we need to start to think like an owner. Every time we get paid, we need to get into assets that beat inflation. Okay. And then we need to build a system to be able to navigate through the economic systems. Okay. And I'm going to go a little bit deeper into that. So here's a solution. Capital DR. But let me just pause for just a moment and walk you through a scenario in banking. So let's say I just see some people. I see John's name here, so I'm John as well. But say I walk into the bank, right? So John walks in the bank. I'm the banker sitting across. John walks in and he's like, "Hey, listen, I'm so excited. We're getting our $500,000 mortgage." I sit down, we sign all the papers, and I sign over to John that he signs the papers. Now he has a $500,000 mortgage. He gets the deposit into his bank. He goes to the title company. He does the title work. So John gets $500,000 as a liability. Okay. On the bank's balance sheet, that is an asset. There was no new money created. And when you start to understand that the whole American system is just debt, guys, we don't produce anything. It all started to change in 1988. We just ended a 30-year cycle on February 20th, 2026 that ended our financialization. We are only financialization in America. If you paid off all the debt in America, the whole system would collapse. So unless you stay as a monetary debt slave, the system doesn't work. Let me say that again. Unless you stay as a monetary debt slave, the system actually doesn't work. So there's only two ways out of this problem that we have right now. They're going to print the living shit out of our dollar, devaluing the currency, which hurts the middle class because most of the middle class don't own assets, and lower interest rates. Okay. That's going to make the markets extremely overvalued. They're already overvalued. Or number two, they're going to let the Straits of Hormuz drop America to its knees through inflation, high gas prices, food prices, supply chain problems. And it's going to right size the debt, the monetary debt system. There's going to be a collapse like 1930, and then there's going to be a reset. Both can be true at the same time, but there's one truth, is that the middle class has to wake the hell up. The middle class has to operate in a new system. The system doesn't work anymore. Going to school, getting a job, and just saving in a 401k or a savings. You need $1 million at 4% to make $40,000 a year. $1 million at 4% is $40,000 a year. So we have to start to take action and start to think differently. You have to start to think as an owner, not as a worker anymore. You have to be very, very strategic and very tactical about every single dollar that hits your bank account. So I invented what's called Capital DR. This framework, it changes everything. This is how I became a multimillionaire investor and how I became a multimillionaire entrepreneur. Not only within my personal life do we operate in Capital DR, but our businesses. Our businesses actually have treasury. Every single time we get paid by our businesses, we buy cash flow, we buy assets that beat inflation. But let me break this down in detail, every single category, okay? You don't need more effort, you need the right order. So here's the problem. Most people don't lack effort, they lack a system. I'll say that again. Most people don't lack effort, they lack a system. It could be with anything: fitness, spiritual, financial, right? They're like, hey, I want to get in shape, but they don't have a system, or maybe they don't have a trainer. They don't know what to do. So they wander around the gym. They're sore the next day. They don't know how to take the right supplements. But imagine if somebody woke up and they had a trainer that has, like I have a trainer, personal trainer that has a system for me. I have my health practitioner that gives me my supplements and does all those different, that's a system. So I just follow the system. Financially, capital DR, I follow the system. I have a spiritual walk in a system. Okay. You don't lack effort. You just need a system. So, as I said, the American Dream is available right now. For those of you just joined, we got a lot of new people joining. The link is in the bio. Okay. And everything I'm talking about today, not only is it going to break down the storytelling on how this happened so you can really understand it and help you rewire the subconscious, but inside this book, it's only $9.99 today. And that price is only today, guys. $9.99. We're going to go for 24. We might extend it for the next 48 hours because a lot of people are going to be joining. We'll keep you guys updated because there's so many people piling in right now. It's $9.99. And inside here, there's a QR code that you scan, and I take you through a 15 module training. So not only do you get the book for $9.99, but when you scan the code inside the book, you actually get a free training in capital DR. Okay. So the American Dream is available down below in the description in this video. So make sure you download your receipt and you'll see the second link to get your bonuses. Okay. So here's the framework: cash flow into appreciation, protection, leverage, and de-risking. But I want to tell a fun story about this because I want to invite you more personal into my life and how this came about. Right. So I had built a framework, but I had no name for it. Right. When crypto went parabolic in 2020 to 2022, it felt very unnatural to me. I'm like, this isn't natural, right? So I pulled profits off the table, and what I didn't do is I didn't buy Lambos, Ferraris, and big houses. Actually, me and my kids moved into a small apartment, and I set a gauge. I said, my lifestyle, because my income increased dramatically in crypto, my business was taking off, my one business at that point, and I said, my lifestyle will stay the same percentage wise to my income. And here's what I did is I created a framework. This is the actual framework. Okay. And I put a lifestyle marker. So if you ever see my lifestyle change, it's still 15% of my overall income. Well, I built the system, and every single time I got paid, I put money into cash flow. Every time the markets came down, I bought in, I stacked my cash value life insurance, and I invented a system. I didn't have a name for it. Well, May is my partner. You guys will meet her throughout the journey here in the 3T Warrior Academy, and you see her on the Wealth Transfer podcast coming up. She's my partner in life, and she's an amazing human being. And I called her one day, and we were both frustrated. And it was an intense conversation. And I was like, May, it's effing easy. She's like, well, what do you mean? I said, because we're a little frustrated because people weren't getting it. I said, it's easy. Okay. It's cash flow. You don't need income. You need cash flow. She said, keep going. I said, you take your cash flow outside of debts and non-negotiables and you put them into assets that beat inflation. She's like, okay, keep going. And I'm like, when those assets appreciate, don't listen to these clowns telling you to just hold, pull profits. There's been 200 years of markets, 32 major markets, and you pull profits and then you put it into protection. You put it into cash value life insurance, things like precious metals and protection. And you wait for the market to collapse. And then you leverage and you go back in and you buy people's fear. Warren Buffett. She's like, that's it. And I go, de-risk, de-risk, de-risk. And that became the creation of Capital DR, a system that's helped 15,000 people worldwide in 23 different countries. That's how it came about. Okay. So Capital DR is each step takes you into the next one. So the first is cash flow. Okay. Cash flow creates freedom. That's the key. Income from assets, not just your job. Okay. I want you to do a self-reflection right now. How many of you are making income outside of your job? Okay. It creates breathing room. So why do we not panic in the 3T Warrior Academy when everything comes collapsing down? Our warriors are calm and stoic because we have cash flow. We're ready to attack like snipers when the markets come down. We do the opposite of everybody else. That's another key thing. Invert everything. When the markets are red, you get rich. When the markets are green, get the hell out, right? And we can train you to do that in the Warrior Academy. Without this, nothing works, guys. If you don't have cash flow, and why do I know this to be true? They came and locked my doors in the pandemic. I had no assets. I had $33,000 in XRP. That wasn't paying my bills. The only thing I could do was liquidate it. So here I am moving back in with my parents at 43 because I had no cash flow outside of my income, which took time, labor. So that was the first solve I did. I'm like, man, I need to figure out a way to make cash flow. So two things I did is I scaled my companies. I helped other people grow within our companies. So now we have 32 team members. I've scaled myself out. We have companies that have monthly recurring revenue. We have team members that are scaled. I'm not working 19 hours a day anymore. I spend time with my children. So I scaled my companies and I bought dividend stocks. So every single time I get paid, I give myself a pay raise. Every single time. Every Monday, I get a dividend check from one of my companies. I buy cash generating dividends. And you can do the same thing. And the thing that people will say is, well, don't I need a bunch of money to do this? No, you need money. Every single bit of money you get as a soldier, Warren, that's from Warren Buffett. I want to give him respect. Is every dollar that I get, I deploy 10% into cash flow. And think about how quickly that will compound. So if I kept my lifestyle at 15% and my income went from losing everything to a multimillionaire entrepreneur and a multimillionaire investor, think about that. It compounds. So the next 3 years, especially if you have a liquidity event in digital assets and you do it properly and you build a system, you're going to change your family's life. Okay. So we have cash flow. Now, where do we take our cash flow? You can keep it in the bank if you want to and get 0.02%. Oh, what happened there? Okay, perfect. 0.20%, right? Or you can start to move your money just like they do into assets. What do you think they're doing with your assets? They're lending it out to the next person to make cash flow, percentage, interest rate, margin, or they're putting it into the capital markets. So what I do is I take my cash flow and I move it into things like cryptocurrency, stocks, and real estate. And I will share with you guys my top portfolio right now. Okay. So in my portfolio, my top two cryptos are XRP and Bitcoin. Not financial advice, just being open with you guys. And on X, if you don't follow me on X, Coach JV _, I'm probably one of the only creators, I don't even like the word influencer, creator that posts my buys and my portfolio. So if you want to see my portfolio, it's on there or inside the 3T Warrior Academy. So we want to turn income into things like real estate, stocks, and crypto. So if your money isn't growing, you're falling behind. Remember, inflation is a silent taxation. So we got that. So we need to create cash flow every single time we get paid income, which is debt. Okay, let me back up. I want you to really understand that every time you get paid, you're paid in someone else's debt. There's no money in the system, guys. So when I learned that, I'm like, wait a minute, this is actually debt. So when I get income, I transmute it into cash flow. I move it into assets that actually grow and beat inflation. The key is when you're studying assets, ask yourself, will these assets actually beat inflation? Next is protection. Okay, so now we have cash flow coming in. Okay, we have assets that beat inflation. Well, these people tell you, oh, just borrow till you die, right? Influencers are saying, lock up your crypto and borrow against it. Let me give you a warning, huge warning. You can do that if you're extremely, extremely wealthy. And I'll give you an example. I would tell you never borrow against your digital assets until this market is normalized. We have seen thousands of people get, look, 10, 10, 20, 25. We saw thousands of people's lives just get crushed. They thought some cryptocurrency was going to go to the moon, so they leveraged to buy more crypto. In 10, 10, 20, 25, Trump sent out one tweet that collapsed the market, collapsed the crypto market, $19 billion. Crushed people's dreams because they're watching these influencers, these price predictions, like, oh, it's going to go to the moon. So like, well, if it's going to go to the moon and I trust this person with all my heart, I'm going to borrow against my crypto to buy more because I'm a genius. Until you're not. When you're in a volatile asset, do not borrow against it unless you're super rich. Okay, I'll give you an example because people always come back and say, well, you talked about leveraging at your Bitcoin. We did. We had to practice what we preach, number one. And number two is we had capital to right size. And here's the law of this, right? So we borrowed against our Bitcoin. It was awesome. We went because we were buying in our own insurance. We used to be part of an IMO. We started our own insurance brokerage. We needed liquidity quick. Okay, so we're like, hey, let's practice what we preach. We were going into the bull market. This was in April 2025. We all had these predictions that, Trump was going to make America great again and all this money was going to flood in. And, I still hope all that happens, but we thought we're going to go into an altcoin season. And so we did the risk weighting. But the difference is we had the cash on the side just in case the market came collapsing down. So we borrowed against our Bitcoin. Okay, 25% of our overall portfolio. We put it on a DeFi platform. I borrowed 75% at 14%. Why did we do that? Because Bitcoin is increasing 50% every year. I made 36% of my money. So I had the liquidity, tax-free to go buy the firm, but the firm was already making money. We were able to pay it off really quick. But Murphy's Law, as soon as we did that, The next day, Trump announced tariffs on the world and the markets came collapsing down. So we had to pump money into that liquidity, but that's the rule. We had liquidity on the side. So I just wanted to share that because when I go into leverage, I want you to understand, and I'm going to explain something to you guys. And this is what I teach, guys. This is what I'm teaching in the book. And that's what I'm teaching in the training is you got to understand how important you got to understand the mechanisms of credit because you can get really wealthy off of credit and it can completely destroy your life. Okay. So let's back up real quick. We have cash flow goes into appreciating assets. Those appreciating assets go up. We pull profits off the table and I move mine into protection. Okay. You have to protect what you built. There's been 32 major market collapses in 200 years. The 33rd is coming. I don't know if it's tomorrow. I don't know if it's 6 months. I don't know if it's 2 years. We have a private credit market that's completely collapsing. We had the Straits of Hormuz closed down. Paper oil and physical oil, there's a disparity there. There's a big disparity there. Central banks around the world are stacking gold, and we have a whole new monetary system coming in. At some point, and this is what I'm studying right now, I don't have enough data to bring it to you guys yet, but it always happens on a day. Boom! 1929. Boom! Boom! They take your money in one day. There's somebody doing that, guys. There's somebody that says, boom, let's hit the switch, let's drop this. And then what happens? Just like after 2006 to 2008, companies like BlackRock come in and monopolize all the houses and they sell it to you. They package all the debt up as equity and they sell it to you as equity in your 401ks, just like the private credit markets. Let me get back on track here. Okay, so we got protection. So now we're building protection, structure. I use cash value life insurance. We build strategies, okay? Because growth without protection eventually disappears. So we see so many people in these single growth. It's like I have a job and I got my XRP and that's my savior. It's not going to work, guys. It's not going to work. You have to have a system. Okay. Every single wealthy person I interact with has a system. Okay. They have a trust. They have LLCs protecting assets. Okay. They have an ecosystem. They're mitigating tax liabilities. These are all things that we can walk you through as we continue to go in. Okay, so now we got cash flow into assets, into protection, and now leverage. I just started that big conversation around leverage. Debt is not the enemy. It's misunderstood debt. That's why I left the banking system. It was gross. We were literally burying people in debt, giving people payday loans. We think we're in the freest country in the world, and we're the deepest enslaved people in the world. America, this is going to be harsh. 70% of Americans are obese. American credit card debt's at $1 trillion. We're addicted. We're broke. We're overweight. That is all by design. You have to study history. They get us through the monetary debt trap. And how did all those other things happen? The obesity, the addiction, the opiates. It's because we have no purpose. If you have a bunch of people who are trading time for money, so much time they can't pay attention, that cost of goods and services are so high that they have to keep bearing the debt. And all they're thinking, they have this low-level anxiety in their head that I have to pay these bills and they can never dream, they can never grow. That's how you get a society trapped. They use debt completely differently, and so do we. So until you have cash flow, until you have assets that beat inflation, and until you have protection, you should not be leveraging. My daughter's here right now with me. I will not allow her to leverage until she has those in place, and she already has 2 of the categories in place. She will never be able to leverage until she understands the mechanism of debt buying assets. That's it. We have to rewire. Now, they don't want, so they want to give us stimulus checks, right? They want to give us bailouts. We need financial literacy. So if the public schooling system's not going to do it, we're going to do it. If the public schooling system's not going to do it, we're going to educate the adults. And then guess what we're doing now? We're building youth programs. Because if the public schooling system doesn't want to teach inflation, and they don't want to teach cash flow, and they don't want to teach they want to teach memorization versus creation, we're going to teach it. That's the catalyst that we're going for here. So when we use leverage, we got to use it correctly. It can accelerate wealth dramatically. It's actually made me very wealthy. I bought my insurance firm with leverage. So I basically bought a free firm. That's leverage. It's called OPM. It multiplies opportunity. I was able to move my assets quickly into my own firm. Boom, that firm is very profitable. I take the firm's income and I invest it back into assets. And now I can deploy, I can buy businesses. I can buy cash flow. I can buy assets. Okay. So as we go through this process, I'm going to teach you how to do this. Now, remember, you just need, someone's like, how much money? You need $10. If you have $10, you can turn 10% of that into income. It's not about how much money you have. It's about the system you have and how long you're willing to be disciplined and consistent to get to that new paradigm. Okay. Remember, de-risking. Every time I coach someone, I say it 3 times. Stay in control. Adjust your strategy. Okay. After February 20, 2026, we're out of the era of blind leadership. It's dead, guys. We're out of the era of just trusting that the president's going to fix it, trusting that some guy driving his 911 Porsche in his suit at a bank is going to help you retire. Do you really think, especially men, head of household, and men, women, head of household, everybody, but men, I'm speaking to you. Do you really think it's appropriate to trust your life and your retirement in someone else's hands and wake up and open your eyes at 62 and go, am I there? That's your income. That's your money. You should know what's going in. You should know what's going out. But they taught us that because of World War II. And again, I explained this in the book. That was actually indoctrinated into us by our grandparents. Because someone wears a suit, they're more qualified. This is how I show up to $100 million clients. You get what you get. You don't throw a fit. That era is dead. We have to start understanding what's going in of our accounts, what's out of our accounts, and we need to de-risk. Because remember, there's been 32 major market collapses in 200 years. So do you think that all these influencers are right? Oh, no, it's different. It's super cycle. We're just going to go up forever. That's not how nature even works, guys. They're lying to you. They're lying to you. That's not how it works. There's somebody winning and there's somebody losing. Ever since the market's been created, the first market collapse was tulips. Flowers, the tulips. Somebody was holding a shitload of tulips and somebody made a lot of money and exited early. So we need to de-risk, okay? We need to reduce exposure. We need to protect our gains. Say it with me, protect our gains. You worked really hard to get these assets. Pull profits off the table, okay? Wealth isn't built once, it's built and managed forever. All right, so we're getting to the back end here. Okay, so if you just joined, and I'll share with you the bonuses here in just a moment. So I know some of you, I see some people asking, the book is in the description down below. So you're going to click the link, buy the book. It's only $9.99 for the next, I think we're going to go 24 to 48 hours because we have a lot of people that haven't jumped on. And then what you do is you download your receipt, and then you're going to click the other link to put the receipt in. I'm going to show you the bonuses. Here's the difference. Most people react emotionally. They chase trends. They stay stuck. We teach systems, structure, discipline. I wish I could sell you get rich quick. I wish I could give you a magic pill. I wish I could tell you XRP is going to make you rich tomorrow. But the system, the structure, and the discipline will make you the wealthiest man or woman in the world. That's it. The wisdom of King Solomon, the richest man in Babylon, it's all about discipline, consistency, structure. That's how nature works. Okay. So the more stable you are, the more consistent you are, the wealthier you're going to become. All right. So here's the message to you. I call them generational shifters. And I don't know who created this math, but we know it to be true. I've heard this before. 100 people go to war and 1 comes back, right? We've seen over 15,000 people we've coached. There's 1 warrior out of 100. I'm a fucking warrior. I am the generational shifter in my family. And every single video I do, I say, warriors, rise, get your shit together. I'm literally looking at myself in a mirror. I don't know who's going to watch the video. I don't know who's going to comment. And nor do I give a shit of the negative comments, because I'm looking myself in the mirror every single day and saying, warriors, rise. JV, get your shit together. It doesn't matter what your neighbor's doing. It doesn't matter what other influencers or creators are doing. It doesn't matter what the negative people in the comments. What are you doing spiritually, physically, and financially? And at 43 years old, when I ended up on my parents' couch, I was staring at my daughter, watching her go like, what the hell is going on? Looking at through her lens, being like, what is my dad doing? What is my dad doing? My son, like, this is his father moving back into his parents at 43 years old. And at some point I had to grow the fuck up. And I had to say, you know what? It's not my parents' fault. It's not the government's fault. It wasn't the pandemic's fault. It was my fault for not taking the time and taking the effort to learn. Because what I started to learn is people would tell me, oh, it's this way or it's that way. I say, why do you believe what you believe? And I started to ask myself that question. Why do I believe what I believe? And I realized it's because I've been parroted down in indoctrination. I'm like, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. Why do the wealthier keep getting wealthier and the poorer keep getting poor and the middle class keeps getting squeezed, but the elites keep getting, like, just look at the inauguration. Go look at who was standing behind them and go look at their net worth since 2020. That'll answer your question right there. What are they doing different than you? What does Elon do different from you? What does Jeff Bezos do different from you? We all have access to that system. Jeff Bezos was in his garage, created Amazon. I created my business in my garage. I had many nights in tears, broke, trying to figure this out. The difference was discipline, consistency, not giving up, and building a system. And then when the wealth started coming in, expanded into other ecosystems. Okay. So every family has that one person who changes everything. So often I see people judging wealthy families and I'm like, hey, somebody had to do it. And I'm that person and you're the person. But I don't know who created the math, but there's one warrior out of 100. I've coached 15,000 people. Out of 100 people, there's one person. And I say this in every single speech. I'm on stage, hundreds of people, and I say to people, I'm like, listen, if you locked in for 3 years, so if you took this book and you locked in for 3 years and you studied and you built your own system, I guarantee you, I can't guarantee you'd be a millionaire, but I'd guarantee you'd be on your way to a completely different life. And I say, how many of you are willing to do that? Guess what? Everybody raises their hand. But year after year after year, people come back. I'm like, how you doing? The government, this. I'm like, no, I don't know, because I was under Biden. I was under Trump. And who knows? Maybe Kamala's coming back. I don't give a shit. I'm going to focus on my system, my discipline, my consistency, and what I can control spiritually, physically, and financially. That one generational shifter, they learn the system, they build assets, and they break the cycle. That one person can be you. And that's who I wrote the book to. I literally wrote the book when I was writing this. I pictured myself, I'm trying to get emotional. I pictured myself sitting in the library, thinking about my kids, like JV, you need to grow the fuck up. I'm sitting in the library, picturing myself, I'm writing this book, and I was speaking to myself in the library where I felt lost, I felt confused, I felt like I didn't have the answers. And when I wrote the book, I wrote it to that one generational shifter that someday there'll be another JV that's sitting in the library when I'm dead 30 to 40 years from now, looking through this going, holy shit, I can do this. Because guess what? This is nothing new under the sun, guys. It's just different currency, different environment, different technologies. It's the same shit every single time. Okay. So I hope and I pray that it'll be more than 1 out of 100. There's 1,400 people on here. Could you imagine if all 1,400 people activated? Could you imagine if 1,400 people activated the ripple effect we can create in the economy? But again, I can't force you to do it, because what's going to happen is you're going to go out into the world and you're going to start to think differently, and the darkness is going to tap on you and say, just like when I wrote this book, guys, it's been the most nerve-wracking week of my life. I'm like, is this good enough, JV? Who is that? That's not me talking. That's not God talking. God is good. God's like, this is God given. But the devil was like, JV, I don't know, man. You have dyslexia. You went through all these issues, and, you've been honest about your past, and people are going to judge you. What if it goes to number one? And then, everybody, I'm like, hey, I've been honest about my pet. Like, all these things went through my head. But guess what? That's none of my spiritual business. What's part of my spiritual business is what I'm doing when nobody's looking. And that's the key to all this. So I'm going to challenge you to be the one. I'm going to challenge you to spiritually, physically, and financially lock in over the next 3 years. And I promise you, I can't promise you be a millionaire, but what I will promise you, your life will change dramatically. Put the blinders on. The distractions are always going to be here, and it's about to get really, really heavy, guys. Okay. So if you order the book today, thank you, man. Everybody's stuck on the whole time. Thank you so much. So if you order the book today, here's what's going to happen. Okay, you download the book, you download your receipt. You're going to go to the second link and you're going to put the link, put the actual document or the receipt inside that document uploader. Okay. What you're going to do is you're going to immediately get the exclusive book launch replay. This is going to be replayed back to you. You can share it with anybody you want. You're going to get my guide to financial freedom. You're going to get Capital DR training system, which is in the book. You're going to get the Freedom Conference replay, our 2026 replay for free. You're actually going to get to see the whole Capital DR built out. You got Johnny Crypto, you got May, you got Jackie, you got Gonzo, you got Jeremy. Am I missing anybody? Coach JV, you got, hopefully I didn't miss any of the team members out there. Jackie, Gonzo, and our whole ecosystem breaking everything down. Then you're going to be invited to a group question and live with me in the future. So you can bring your book, you can bring your questions, and I'll spend a couple hours with you guys and answers. Meaning I'm going to bring up my whiteboard, I'm going to answer many questions, and that's all just for buying the book for $9.99. The price of a floofy latte at Starbucks. I promise you it'll be the best $9.99 you've ever spent in your life. And I do want to say thank you because, as I said when I started this, is I had bad news and good news. The bad news is we already hit number one in a couple categories, number one in one category, number three in another. The good news is we can take this to number one on Amazon and imagine how many lives we can impact. Okay. All right, here we go. All right. So here's the next steps. Down below, you're going to see the book in the description. So click the link, download the book. Next link, you're going to see the link to actually download your receipt, and that's going to unlock your bonuses. Okay. Now, I want to share with you guys about the 3T Warrior Academy. We have a lot of people on here from the 3T Warrior Academy. We have created a community since 2020 of over 15,000 warriors worldwide. I developed a system with my team, my amazing team, and I could not have done it without them. We have 32 team members and representing 3 different countries in the Warrior Academy. We have developed 7 different companies together. The greatest, Jackie says it the best. I'm around giants, absolute giants, absolute giants. And let me share with you what we do for a living. I want to share with you. A lot of people don't realize, we don't monetize our channels at all. I don't monetize YouTube. I don't monetize TikTok, Instagram, and all that stuff. We own ecosystems, we own companies. And what we did is we created an ecosystem based on financial literacy and education, and we built verticals to help people with those resources. So I own companies in information, technology, education, financial services. We own a software company that created Merlin, smartest way to track your crypto, one of the greatest crypto apps in history that helps you track, exit the markets. We have Freedom Insurance. We have our Freedom Insurance firm. So what is the 3T Warrior Academy? It's a community of like-minded individuals, tons and tons of education, 7 live calls per week. We have our Revolutionary Warrior Ascension program to ascend you to the warrior, to take you 4 weeks through a deep training through cash flow, to include my portfolio, exact portfolio, assets, okay, my exact portfolio, my protection strategy to include how I'm set up with LLCs, trust, the whole ecosystem. But on top of that, you get access to all the resources. What we found is there was a huge fragmentation out there. Everybody's getting information online and they're going all over the place and they never get anything done because it's analyst perilous, right? So we created a community of like-minded warriors where you can ask questions, you can get the information, you have support, you have a community, but also you have true education. We're financial educators, not financial advisors. Okay. We're very open and honest. We share with you exactly what we're doing. But we also give you the framework step by step and all the resources along the way. Okay, to include our tax lawyers, to include our trust lawyers, how we set up our Wyoming LLCs and how we set up our trust, how we do institutional grade custody. So if you're that person that's like, listen, I need more support and I really, really want to lock this in, what we're going to do is, for you being here today, I'm just unbelievably thankful, is there's going to be a massive discount. And so you'll see another link down there where you can actually set up a call with my team. We're not going to have you just go buy the program. You can actually set a call with my team to ask as many questions as you can. We're so big on customer service. You're going to talk to a physical team member. Okay. I also want to give you a big warning, since we have so many people on here. Guys, we don't invest people's crypto. Okay. Be very careful of scammers out there. We're an education platform. I'll never ask you to send me crypto. We do not invest people's crypto. Your exchange is fine. You see these videos of people pointing up like this, that those are all scammers using our content. Okay, we are financial educators. We have Merlin, smartest way to track your crypto, the 3T Warrior Academy. Okay, I own a financial firm, Freedom Insurance. I own a men's coaching program, Refined Integrity. We own many different ecosystems. I own Sovereign Mindset Wealth LLC. And we are actually builders. That's what we do. So let's recap. First, download the book or buy the book. next, the next link down below in the description, you're going to take your receipt, put it in there. That's going to send you all the bonuses. We're going to meet again for a Q&A call. You're going to get all of this, the replay of this. You're going to get the 2026 conference for free in your inbox. And inside the book, there's a QR code that you scan, and I take you through a 15 module training for $9.99. Okay. The book is going to go up in price probably in the next 48 hours. So I think I'll just call it 48 hours because we have so many people that are still, we have over 3,000 people registered for this, and they're going to watch the replay. So we'll probably do it 48 hours going into price Sunday at midnight, right? The price is going to go back up. So for price of coffee, you're going to get the free training, you get all the bonuses. And if you're interested in joining the Warrior Academy, you can set up a free call, discovery call with our team. Just make sure you have to get the discount. You have to show up to the call. So I'll end with this. I love you guys. I'm really super grateful to be here with you. I like to predict the future, and I do it through words. I do it through visualization, and I do it through sickening fucking discipline. So I'm here to tell you that we together as a family are about to break history. We are about to rewire the subconscious mind of Americans and people worldwide around the financial system. We're in a moment in time where we don't need stimulus checks. We don't need bailouts. We need truth. We need hard truth. The evidence is here. The financial system is on the verge of one of the greatest wealth transfers in history and one of the greatest destructions of the old system. So you are the generational shifter. And guys, I'm staring at myself on a screen. I'm talking to myself. I am the generational shifter, and so are you. So there's going to be two types of people. There's going to be the one that takes massive action. And there's going to be the one that sees this as entertainment. They're going to go back out into the world, and they're going to get the first no, or going to take the first loss, and they're going to back off. But what I think about every single time is my children. I think about my family. Every decision I make, I think of my kids. I think of the lens of them staring at me. The decision that I make, how will this affect my children and my grandchildren? The decisions I make in darkness, would my children be proud of me? And I remember the moment when we moved back in with my parents. I remember looking at my children, and there was a situation that happened. And I remember it was a tough situation. And my dad took my daughter and my son. We went to some like little festival thing, and I had a really tough conversation with somebody. And I remember looking at the fear in their eyes, the confusion. And I remember thinking, that's because of me. It's because of my weakness spiritually, physically, and financially. Physically, I was fit, but financially, I was fucked. Spiritually, I was not working it. So I was like, man, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You're just going to keep repeating the cycle over and over and over again? Or are you actually going to grow up and be a man? And stop worrying about people say on the internet, and stop worrying about the naysayers, and actually go after your dreams and build. Take the risks that nobody's willing to take. And I did. I locked in spiritually. I found God, and I found Jesus Christ, and I love Jesus Christ with all my heart. And then I started to build financially. And now as I sit today, I make every decision for my community, for my children, for my family, for my partner, my ecosystem. We got to start thinking this way. We got to stop looking outside and saying, this person's going to do it for me. This banker's going to do it for me. The president's going to save me. Now, I pray for our president every single day, and I pray for all world leaders every single day, because I want them to make America great again. But America is not going to become great until we become great. Guys, every 4 years, we complain about the same shit. Every 4 years, they promise and they don't do it. They promise and they don't do it. But one promise I know is true is from the minute you wake up to the minute you go to bed, you have a choice. You can exercise, or you can sit on the fucking couch. You can create a budget, or you can go spend your money frivolously. You can read the Bible, or you can watch pornography. You have a choice. Nobody's stopping you from being great. And when I finally realized that after that moment, and I brought my kids home, and I was like, this is it. This is it. And I remember I looked my mom in the eyes. We're on a walk. And I said, our lives will never be the same. And you know what she said to me? I believe you. It's all I needed. I needed one person to believe in me. And I think about that promise every single day. So I encourage you to go after your dreams, but it's going to be scary. Just like when I wrote this book, this is the most nervous I've ever been. Most nervous I've ever been. But I'm so glad I did it. No matter the outcome, I'm so glad I did it. And I'm going to do it again. And I'm going to do it again. And I devoted my life to financial literacy. So as I let you guys go, I want to say thank you. And all that I hope for today is that I impacted one person's life. That's it. We said that when we started our company in 2017, JV Impacts. I said the goal is to impact one person's life every single day. So I trust that you are the generational shifter. I trust that you will take action. And I'm very excited to meet you guys in the future. This is our moment to rewire the subconscious mind of Americans and people worldwide. And as we always say, warriors, rise, get your shit together. Let's go.